They're gonna be fine. Everybody gonna be fine.
Right. Everybody.
Yeah, that's fine.
Valid. So before we get out of this, I guess something else. Oh, go ahead. Oh, you got a question, bitch. Let's go.
I got a question. Like, y'all got daddy issues? I have daddy issues.
I have daddy issues.
Is this where we're taking?
Well, my dad's dead. So my daddy issues are like from like, up until age 20, and then he passed. And then what's crazy is in therapy recently, my therapist was like, you got a lot of smoke for your family and your mother and all this other shit, but you don't really talk about your dad much. And I was like, well, he passed when I was 20, so I wasn't even really like, I was a young adult, so I still wasn't in the really in the world yet.
Adulthood experience of your parents is way different.
Totally different. Like I'm getting to know my mother now. I'm getting to know MK now, like as a woman, like as a person, like completely separate as my mom, which is strange. It's Stranger Things. Like it's the upside down, dead ass. Like getting to know my mother is the upside down.
Now, you asked about daddy issues. Are you asking that because you do think that there's a correlation between daddy issues and hypersexuality or issues with dating men?
No, not necessarily. I think it just overall as a woman, like different things. So the men that you choose to date, like the way you maneuver yourself in certain situations regarding towards men, it has a lot to do with your whole womanhood. Has a lot. Your daddy issues has a lot to do. And good issues or bad issues has a lot to do with like how you. And it's not even about sexuality and stuff like that. I feel like as personality wise,
right.
I feel like my dad has influenced a lot. Of my personality. He's very reserved. He loves music. And there's certain things that I didn't like about him that I try to avoid completely with men. That's why I'm just like super guarded and stuff like that. So like I'm always interested in like everybody else's like daddy issues, whether good or bad.
I would say parent issues. So it's crazy because to me, I guess emotionally, both of my parents weren't very emotional. Like it wasn't the hugs, it wasn't the constant I love yous.
Yeah.
But particularly with my dad, because my mom was the single parent, if we ever needed money or name brand shoes or anything, ask your father. Ask your father. So I actually grew up with looking at men more as ATMs, which is probably why I had this. Men can't tell me no. My dad never really told us no. If we needed money, we went to my dad. So even in terms of when I started growing up, having this financial attachment to men was the problem for me. But also, like I mentioned in a previous episode, my dad had a lot of women. And so even in terms of dating, I just know of men to have lots of women. Like that's kind of
where's the spoon?
You know what I mean? So like a huge part of, where I feel like a man shouldn't tell me no, or me not opening up as much emotionally, or me thinking a man financially should provide, because that's what I've known of men always to do. I mean, I'm half Jamaican. So even if a Jamaican man has 10 kids, he will work 20 jobs to make sure those kids have. And that is bitch, which is why I have 3 podcasts. And bitch, I'm Jamaican.
She has a lot of children.
I have a lot going on. But so I think that there is a lot attached to how I view men, how I've moved in relationships, and my fear of opening up emotionally, because I never really did it with my dad. And like I said, we had the whole child support issue and all of that stuff. But I'm able to reflect on it.
No, I'm the opposite. I'm the polar opposite. So my mother was completely financially independent and did everything on her own. So my mother never asked my dad for anything. My dad would just volunteer money, just, you know what I mean? He would help. He would just help on his own. She never had to ask really. But like my hangups in relationships with men is actually the polar opposite of Mandy. I never asked a man for anything. Never.
Oh, wow.
I never wanted a man to have that over me, right? Because I remember moments and times where my mom would ask and would press my dad for money and be like, well, didn't I give you money for that? And my mom always made more money than my dad. My mother was a midwife. So my dad is looking at her like, you don't really need it. And my mom is like, get the fuck out of here. This is your kid. Shut up. Run me my shit. Right. But even then it took a lot for her to get there. So for me, that rubbed off, because it was like she raised me that way. It was like, you never want to be in a position where a man could ever throw that in your face, or where a man feels like you owe him.
So you were like more modeling MK
Oh
and
God.
her relationship to your dad, and
Right.
Mandy is literally just
Bitch, I was
like her
modeling
dad.
Anna Nicole Smith. These niggas was gonna pay.
I know, but the emotional problem with mine was the fact that because my mother was so ingrained in her and then so ingrained in me to not rely on a man for anything, it turned into, okay, so I don't need a man for anything. I can take care of all this by myself. I can do all this by myself. The con of that part of the process emotionally, at least for my mother, was like she had a really hard time communicating what she needed and wanted on an emotional level because she was so self-sufficient over here that it was like, if I'm taking care of all of this shit, what do I really need you for? Like, I can love myself. I can take care of myself. I can do this. I can, like, you're not feeding my confidence. You're not stroking my ego. You're not, you know what I'm saying? And so I've had to unlearn some of that in terms of like being able to express. And I've always been very expressive about my needs and my wants and what makes me comfortable, what makes me uncomfortable in the moment. I'm very vocal about that kind of shit. Thank God. Which I don't know where I got that from because both of my mom has a temper, but she's mild mannered. My father was also really mild mannered, really quiet. So nobody was ever like constantly in tune with their self-awareness and knowing themselves and wanting to tell people what they needed, what they wanted. I don't struggle with that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I've had to, like, even if I need something, like in a relationship now, it's like we had that conversation last week where it was like, you realize if you need something, you can ask me. And I'm like, I can, but 99% of the time, I'm probably not going to.
I realize
I'm just
that,
going to try to figure it out.
That's also why I feel like there was almost a dependency for me because I was broke for a long ass time. A bitch ain't get horny if a bitch was broke. So if that dick didn't come with money, what are we doing? And so,
I understand that.
You know what I mean? So that's why I think even when we had this Birkin bag conversation and a man got to pay your bills, that's where I feel like a woman realistically is not in a place to date a man or give her their all emotionally if their finances and their life isn't together. If they can't find happiness on their own, if they can't pay their own bills, they're looking for a man to supplement financially, but nothing really emotionally, nothing personally, nothing mentally. And so I think that that's why I was even single for so fucking long, because I wouldn't open myself up to really getting to know a man because my concern was, okay, but how can he help me? What can he do? And if a man cannot do for you, there's a blockage with how you even respect this man. Because now you looking at, oh, nigga, you can't do this for me? Then what are you good for? And unfortunately, that's not a good way to view somebody when you're genuinely dating, you know?
There's gotta be a balance, because I think even on an emotional level, like that was always what it was for me. I was always a go-getter. So I'm out here figuring my career shit out. But what I wanted and needed a man for was love and emotional support. That was what I needed a man for. Like, just come love on me. Just come love on me and then go.
I needed money and an orgasm. But now that I have money,
I the orgasm, but I didn't really need the money like that. So I was just kind of like, I don't want to make the connection, because there's still a fear of it. It was still a fear of intimacy. There's still that fear of vulnerability. There's still that fear of letting somebody in and letting somebody take care of you, and not take care of you like provide for your life, but take care of you, just make you feel safe. I think on both Mandy and I were raised to not really feel safe around, like, safe emotionally relationship.
Here's my situation that I'm in right now and been in for like at least a decade now, where I've grown up in a 2-parent household my whole entire life. My parents got married in January of '85. I was born in September, literally 9 months later.
That's amazing.
So like I've seen 2-parent household, but as I'm growing up, young adult, 21, 22, 23, I'm starting to realize that my immigrant parents came to America as 2 young 19, 22-year-old, whatever age they were. And their marriage was kind of arranged. It was like my dad was interested in my mom, and my mom was kind of pushed by my grandmother, like, he has a good job. You know, I'm pretty sure he's going to be a good provider. He works at Pfizer. Like, he could get you a job too. And like, they just, because they're polar opposites. My mother is an extreme like extrovert. My dad is an introvert. Like, it literally, you'll look at them and you'll be like, these two are married for 35 plus years. Like, that don't even make sense. So it was about, you know, them taking care of a family, because a lot of West Indians are like that. Because I remember asking my dad one time when I was like 18, 19, like, did you ever have dreams growing up of like being such and such or whatever? He was like, no, when we grew up, you went to school, you went to college, you got married, you take care of your family. That's what life is.
Wow.
So
I love that life ain't boring like that no more. Bitch, I got
yeah.
way.
Yeah. So
now it's like we can
yeah.
be partners based on whether or not we like each other. Like I can't be with
mean?
somebody if I don't like you.
Exactly.
You know what
So
I mean?
my whole thing was, even with Ava's dad, like my daughter's dad, like even going into that relationship, I was 21, 22, engaged to be married, like going in the same route my parents were going. And I had like an epiphany, like, yo, I need to pump my brakes. I got my whole life to kind of figure out who I am first.
You got a whole
what am I doing? Yeah,
I'm
way
just
more, way more chocolate starfish in the city.
Way more tongue action to do. I'm so, you know, that you had that epiphany, because I feel sorry for the people who got married early.
I need to go to Tiffany's. Yes, I had my whole epiphany of, yo, I need to get my life together and like figure out who I am before I make this leap. Yes, I have my daughter now. But another thing was, I can't let my daughter see I'm settling.
Right.
Which I think
was the thing for my mother too. It was just like, like just because we have a kid doesn't mean that this needs to be a long-term situation. We can figure out how to do this on our own. We don't need anybody. We can figure this out, which is a great attitude to have, right? And I think as a mother, I mean, I think it's a level of courage that a lot of women don't get the credit for. When they do decide to break a situation that they could, you know what I'm saying? It's like you could stick in a situation that's not probably the best for you, but it works for the kid and you think it's for the betterment of the family. When in fact, like you dimming your light and you swallowing your, you know what I mean, your voice, and you're not getting really everything else that you need.
Right. And no disrespect to my parents or you know, my mom, because I mean they raised me and my brother, and we're very independent and we know what we want to do in life. And I mean, clearly I'm the black sheep, because the career choices that I made was super, super different from the normal doctor, lawyer, nurse, West Indian things that, you know, teacher. So, you know, no disrespect to them, because they laid the foundation for me to really rise to the occasion and just do whatever I wanted to do and do it with pride. But like, yeah, like I just had to make a decision. Like, I mean, either I'm going to go, all right, we out here in these streets.
Y'all, this is Brooklyn now. This is Brooklyn. Welcome to Brooklyn Sirens.
Hello, Brooklyn. How you doing? But yeah, I had to make the decision like, yo, is this the route that I really want to go? And is it really for me? Because it doesn't seem like it. I'm 21, 22, and it seems like I'll be settled and I'll be good. But is this really what I want? Considering the fact that I'm such a creative and I love doing creative things. And
bitch,
that's where my happiness really is.
We got a little deep. Goddamn.
We got a
little deep. I ain't gonna.
Why not?
Ooh.